Good afternoon. I'm Travis Stovall, and with me, go ahead.
Jessica Harper, Community
Jess.
Services Manager for the city.
Excellent. Thank you for joining
Yeah.
us this afternoon, Jessica. Jessica, as she just said, Community Services Manager for the city. A lot of things that we're going to be talking about here in just a moment. And as you know, this is our Facebook Live that we do every single month. And as you look around, you will recognize and notice that we are not in the mayor's office. Today, we are out at Main City Park, which you saw just a moment ago. We're out here enjoying this gorgeous weather. One of my favorite parts of Gresham is the opportunity to go out on the Springwater Trail. This goes all the way out to Boring. So if you have a hankering to get out, see the incredible nature that we have here, please don't hesitate to come down here. Enjoy the ride out, and you will have a clear ride. And again, we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. But again, just want to welcome you to our Facebook Live. And right off the top, let's go ahead and cover a couple questions that have been posed that came in through Instagram. So we do get questions, and we actually want to make sure that everybody knows that they have an opportunity to give us questions uh, before we go live and then also as we're live. So put your questions in the comments. One of the first questions we received is there is an island that actually is just before the turn lane at 181st and Stark. There's an island with a couple of trees, and someone asked, is there a way that we could take that out and have more opportunity for the left-hand turn lane? Well, the short answer to that is, good afternoon. The shorter answer to that is no. If you notice, there's actually a pedestrian crosswalk that's right there, and we have a lot of pedestrian traffic throughout that area, and we want to make sure that our pedestrians are safe. We are going to look at, and our traffic team is going to look at, maybe the opportunity of adjusting the signal before our busiest time of the day to ensure that traffic can get through there. So, great question. And as it stands right now, we're not going to take out that island. We want to ensure that we have that protection and that safety for our pedestrians. Another quick question that we have, they kind of go together, so I'm going to mash them up per se, and it's about long-term community planning. We've got a lot of housing being built, and we also know that, or some of you may know, that we've been working on a housing capacity study. And Jessica, this kind of, not kind of, it actually impacts much of the work that you and your team does, housing. And so this is a great question to kind of cover here. And as you know, we are challenged with our housing stock. And I think some of what you're seeing is us catching up with that, us catching up with our opportunity to supply housing to folks in our community, or at least to make it available. And so we, as we know, we've got a substantial lack of housing, and we're playing catch up. Part of that housing, though, is we do comprehensive community planning. And so the question was, how are we staying on top of things like schools for some of these new houses that are going in, these new communities that are going in? How about emergency services and planning and those types of things? All of those things kind of roll up into this conversation about community planning. And all of that happens well in advance of these communities being built. We work with our school systems, we work with our community college, we work with all of our infrastructure and make sure that we have that. Some of what happens is some of these communities pay what they call system development charges. And these are charges that are charged like permit fees on these new houses and new communities to ensure that we can build that infrastructure to support everything that we have there. But even with those system development charges, as a city, we still have some financial challenges we've talked about before. So with all of that, talking about housing, Jessica, you and your team, you do a lot of things. Let's start with you giving us an overview of what you and your team does across the incredible city of Gresham.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'm really happy to be here. Got some folks coming down the trail now.
Wouldn't have happened to see a wallet by any chance?
We have not. We'll keep our eyes peeled, though. Yeah, sure.
Always helping the citizens of Gresham.
All in a day's work. So I'm here today to talk about our homeless services team mostly, and that is a team of 4 people that we have on staff, 3 outreach workers and 1 public utility worker who helps with the cleanups. And we have that outreach staff in the community every day offering services to the community and responding to inquiries from the public. So we've with the number of staff that we have now, we've grown a lot in the last year, which has been great. And now we have different zones for different parts of the city. And our focus for homeless services is twofold. It's first and foremost providing resources to the people experiencing homelessness in Gresham, trying to get them the resources they need to, move into a successful, stable place for their lives. And then secondly, just maintaining community livability in our parks and open spaces, just like this trail.
So we talk about this trail. I've ridden the Springwater Trail for years, enjoy it. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I saw a noticeable change here on the Springwater Trail, where there were a number of encampments that were ensconced around the trail itself. Yep. And then about 3 or 4 years later, they were gone, and it's really a pleasant ride from Gresham all the way out to Boring and back. What types of efforts were utilized to assist in working with the chronic homelessness that was experiencing what we were seeing here on the Springwater Trail?
Yeah, so that was a really intentional effort by the city to get our hands around the issue, and through grant funding from Multnomah County for the Joint Office of Homeless Services, that's where our funding for our program began. And our first emphasis for that was outreach along the trail, because it was, a few years back, like you're saying, it wasn't necessarily the safest place to go. Take your kids on a walk, go for a bike ride, whatever the case might be. And that was because people didn't feel safe because of some of those encampments. So when our homeless services program began around 2016, we started with really focusing in this area and in the wooded areas surrounding the trail. And by doing outreach every single day, boots on the ground, developing relationships with the campers that were here, and really informing them that we don't allow camping in our public spaces, and we want to get you into some services and housing to help you move forward. We've been able to really clear out all of those large encampments along the trail in Gresham, and we're very proud of that. I mean, our team still takes pictures. Look how clear it looks today. There's nothing here that's impacting the community. And it really is about serving the people who are experiencing homelessness. This isn't where people want to live. It's not compassionate for people to live in the open spaces in our community, and it's not safe for the rest of the community. So we've really made an effort on that. And now we're kind of in a maintenance mode with Springwater Trail, and we're really proud of the progress.
Now, when we think about that effort, and former Mayor Shane Bemis, one of his sayings was, compassion without accountability is not compassion at all. And so it's really about a compassionate approach to assisting and helping these individuals that are experiencing this chronic homeless type of episodic moments in their life. And so when and I'm going to throw some numbers out there, they're going to be general, but when we first got started with this work, there were over 300 folks that we consider chronic homeless, not episodic, not folks who are just experiencing a disruption in their housing solution, but truly chronic homeless. Yeah. And now my understanding is we're closer to about 35, right. which some people would say is a structural zero, because essentially you will always have an ebb and flow of the chronic homeless. And so it's really about transitioning folks from this experience to more permanent, stable housing and living solutions. Is that an accurate statement and summation of what we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly right. We really want, it's not about just asking people to clear out of here. We really want to help people. And with the expanded staff that we now have in place, we have the capacity to do that in an even more, in a holistic way to help people. We're getting people connected with employment and transportation, any kind of resources they might need, mental health or substance abuse, all of that. I mean, every person we meet has a different circumstance that they're going through, and that's led them to where they are. And we have the right people on board now, and the right population. I mean, we have a small enough population because we've been able to get our hands around this issue, so we can really work with people hand in hand. And yeah, our numbers have decreased for our chronic homeless, unsheltered homelessness in Gresham has really decreased over the last 5 years. We're still waiting on the point in time count for, thank you. We're still waiting on that point in time count from 2022. So those numbers should be coming out at the end of October, and we're eager to see what that looks like. But we know every person experiencing homelessness in Gresham, that lives here day to day and is experiencing chronic homelessness, our outreach people know them by name, they know where they are, they know their story, and we're working with them every day to try to move them forward.
So just a couple more questions. I know, because this is really something that's on the hearts and minds of our community members, and it's really about helping. So we have, and we've been able to address the chronic homelessness based on the grants that we've received. Now, I believe we've kind of moved upstream a little bit. And we now are working to either keep folks housed. We've got housing coordinator position that we've been able to bring on. We've got other solutions. You've said we expanded our team. We're also have been working with Move in Multnomah. There's a lot of M's there.
Yeah.
Move in Multnomah. So we've got that type of program. So it's actually assisting even more so in the episodic type homelessness that folks are experiencing along with the chronic. And so we've got more solutions now that we haven't had in the past. And so we've got more solutions to help assist in this opportunity that we have to really help our individuals that are experiencing this homelessness. Is that correct?
It is. That's absolutely correct. And it's, you know, when our program began, we were really focused on, and we still are, on chronic homeless outreach in our parks and open spaces because it's the most impactful to the community and because those are the people in the highest need of housing and support. So now that we have this expanded capacity internally, we are thinking a little bit upstream, like you said. How can we partner with local shelters to reserve places in those shelters that are already established in our community for people that our team is working with from the city that are from Gresham that need a bridge to, you know, transition out of being unsheltered. We've done that, and last week at council, I'm really excited. We've allocated that grant funding or legislative funding to a couple of different nonprofits in Gresham, like I said, who are already established here. But in doing that, we reserve space in those shelters for our team specifically to place people into, and that is a big deal for us because when we say we can get you into shelter today, we want to deliver immediately.
Absolutely.
And we've always been able to do that, but it can take a lot of maneuvering. And now we have that reserve capacity. It's a big deal.
That is a big deal because ultimately, when we talk to folks that are experiencing homelessness, we talk to other entities that work in this space. Many of them say that one of the critical things is we have to rebuild trust with people who are experiencing this because they've lost trust over time. You know, we haven't always, and when I say we, it's the proverbial we, haven't always as society followed up with the things that we've promised. And so that trust gets lost and it makes it that much more difficult to assist and have them trust us to the degree that we can get them into solutions. And so hats off to you and your team. The work that you continue to do is impressive. I know we get calls from around the state and thus around the country many times about some of the work we're doing here. And again, there's always room for improvement, for sure. But I mean, I can absolutely say there is a palpable difference between where we were about 7 years ago to where we are today. And really, you know, it's the stories of the people who have moved from their chronic homelessness situations into permanent housing and jobs. That's really what's exciting. And that's what we're all about. It's really how do we deliver, you know, on that promise. We're one of the wealthiest nations in the world. And again, that's not compassion, in my opinion. When we think about, you know, responding in situations, sometimes you have folks who may need emergency services. And so that kind of takes us to a topic that we sometimes get questions on, and that's our emergency services, specifically with fire. And incredibly enough, Jessica, we have pretty much the same department that we've had since 1990, almost 32 years. Roughly the same size department, roughly the same number of stations, and those stations are really struggling from a capacity and a capital perspective. And so we share that, one, to tell our firefighters, our leadership team in fire, that we want to thank you. We absolutely want to give you thanks and appreciation for the work that you do every single day. I see the numbers, and the council sees the numbers as far as the responses for firefighter, and it's impressive. I mean, our firefighters really do respond to a lot of calls. But there's also, to our community members, we've got some work that we need to do as a city to make sure that we can bring on the right financial solutions to be able to move forward with the work that we need to. Because I'm sure sometimes or many times when your team is out doing the work that they do, they sometimes have to call upon our emergency services team, both, you know, sometimes police and fire, thus, you know, paramedics, to respond to some situations. so that we can make sure that we give folks the best care possible as we're helping them transition. So I assume that's something that happens out in the field with your folks.
Yeah, absolutely it does. Not only with police, frequently we work together, and then fire, we like you said, we call them for medical calls often, and also they will sometimes tip us off if there's been a fire from like an encampment that maybe got out of control or something. We can collaborate on the back end about those things. But yeah, we've got an incredible fire department, and they have great response times, and they're always there when we need us. So I couldn't agree more that we need to support that investment.
Exactly, and that's critical, and that's something that we're trying to share with our community folks, because as a city we need to start investing in our city in real ways that really begins to help us develop, along with some of the questions that we received. They said, hey, how are we going to ensure that we can build out the infrastructure required to take on the additional folks that'll be here, because we do have the housing, and that's a key question. Plus, on the industrial side, one of the ways that we can absolutely increase and enhance community wealth and our infrastructure, our parks, our recreation, all of those things, is to ensure that we've got the industrial side and the living wage jobs, those types of things in our community. So some of those things also require that we've got the right infrastructure from an emergency services standpoint. So those things are critical, and we look forward to the opportunity to talk to our community members, engage our community members in this discussion and conversation as we look to move forward with the financial solution that the council has brought forward. Just recently the council approved a financial plan, a 3-year financial plan that includes the potential of a levy, some fees to help us as we look to better invest in our city. So with that, talking about investing in our city, there are a ton of things that happen all the time, Jessica, behind the scenes that nobody really ever sees. And one of those things is our Cascade Ground Alliance. I think that's what it is. Groundwater Alliance. It's a whole lot of words, but Cascade Groundwater Alliance. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And what that means is that we are actually drilling wells for our water. We currently get our water through Portland off of Bull Run. Right. And because they've had to make some substantial investments in their water infrastructure, those rates are going to go up pretty significantly. And our city team, our leadership, they kind of looked out and says, hey, we want better control over those rates for our community members. And they said, hey, if we drilled our own wells, which we currently, we actually get some water off a couple of wells already. The city of Vancouver, it pulls from the same aquifer, which is hundreds and hundreds of feet below the surface. So it's clean water that we currently already use. Again, the city of Vancouver also pulls from this aquifer. This will allow us to actually keep a fairly balanced rate structure into the future. And so we've partnered with Rockwood Water and are drilling these wells to supply us with this additional water. Now that infrastructure, again, earlier I said investment. I mentioned the word investment. We're moving towards making the investment into our groundwater system so that we have better control over that rate structure. That's going to start January of 2023. And it's going to impact us on average about $8.30 per household per month. But it's an investment into our future to help bend that cost curve as we go forward. And that infrastructure is critical as we look to make sure that we're able to deliver a critical resource to our community members. Looks like we have a question.
Someone has asked, how do you build up while defunding police and fire?
Excellent question. So, police and fire have not been defunded at all. Actually, police and fire has the largest budget ever in Gresham history. The council, the mayor and the council last year actually utilized $5.2 million worth of ARPA funding. One of the only cities that I'm aware of that did this. Moved $5.2 million of ARPA funding to our police and our fire. So none of our police, none of our fire has been defunded over this time frame. And again, they actually have the allocation, the largest allocation ever in Gresham history, to ensure that we've got the ability to address what's going on in our community. We also have green-lighted community safety specialists, which are non-sworn individuals who will be assisting our police department. We're also utilizing a number of unsworn positions, investigators, and folks that can take some of the pressures off of our sworn officers. Now, Where is the challenge? The challenge is that we were told roughly back in 2007 that we should have been about 145 to 155, 145 to 155 sworn officers. Our community actually said no twice to 2 public safety bonds. I worked on both of them, or public safety levies. I worked on both of them, so I know it intimately. We worked hard in 2008 and 2014 to get public safety bonds passed. I keep saying bonds, public safety levies passed to fully fund our police department and our fire department. Neither one of them passed over that time frame, and so we have been at 120 sworn officers since probably the mid 2000s. And again, that's a struggle. And so we're there. We're still at the 127. We just got a new report from an organization called what are they called again? Barry Dunn, national organization that does this all around the country. Jessica, they came and said you need to be at 155, 165 to be fully staffed. Our general fund's about 80 million bucks. We have 115-ish thousand people. City of Hillsborough, their general fund's 130 million, and they have 107,000 people. So we're quite, I wouldn't say quite a bit bigger, but we're bigger with a $50 million less general fund. Roughly 90% of our general fund goes to police and fire. 50% of theirs goes to police and fire. 50% of Hillsborough's goes to police and fire. It's not that saying, we're not saying that we're spending too much. It's just our budget is not large enough to fully fund our police department the way it should. So again, we are absolutely not defunding or have defunded our police. Our police are funded at the highest level they've ever been, along with the $5.2 million in additional funding that came from the ARPA funding that no other city that I'm aware of has committed that level of funding to their police and fire departments during that time frame. So appreciate the question. Any more questions that we received?
That's it.
All right.
Well done.
Well, thank you so very much. And as always, folks, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get us those questions ahead of time. And then also make sure that when you come to the Facebook Live, don't hesitate to give us some questions to answer. We appreciate that. We've got a couple of things that I just want to remind you of. October 22nd at City Hall, we have in the morning, I believe it's from 9 to noon, we have the hard to recycle and the regular recycling and shredding opportunity going on. So if you've got a couple of bags of hard to recycle stuff and some shredding, go ahead and bring those down to City Hall October 22nd from about 9 to noon and hand those off to the great folks that'll be there, making sure that those don't end up in the waste stream. And we're doing our best to make sure that we're taking care of our environment. And then also, I'm going to send you, on this one, I'm going to send you to the website, GreshamOregon.gov, GreshamOregon.gov. We're going to have our first annual jack-o'-lantern carving. And so if you go to our website, GreshamOregon.gov, Jessica, you can go there too.
I'll be there.
Go there. You can pick up a free jack-o'-lantern that you can carve. And there's going to be a jack-o'-lantern carving contest. The mayor and the council is going to actually be judging those. And they'll be on display in downtown Gresham. So please get your pumpkin to turn into a jack-o'-lantern. And again, GreshamOregon.gov. That'll give you the opportunity to see all the details. I was going to say deets. All the deets for those of you who utilize that what I was going to say vernacular. For folks like me, it's the details. Go to GreshamOregon.gov to get the details. And yeah, enjoy. Come out, join our first ever jack-o'-lantern carving contest.
That'll be a fun one.
It will be, and I expect to see your jack-o'-lantern
I'll do
there.
my best. It's usually 2 triangles and a smile, but you know.
Well, that works.
Kind of basic.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for coming out. It's a
Thank
gorgeous day out here. I think we're supposed to have these gorgeous days for like the next week.
I can't believe it.
Everybody get out, enjoy. I mean, the Springwater Trail right
Yeah,
here.
it's
You've
not on
seen
the trail.
people bicycling, running, all that stuff here on the trail. Come out, enjoy this incredible weather. We live in the beautiful Pacific Northwest.
May I say one more thing?
You
Dave?
may say whatever
I
you
just
like.
wanted to say that if anybody does see an impact from homelessness that they want the city to address or sees someone in need, please let us know as soon as you see it. Even if you think someone else might have already reported it, we need to know, and that's how we can address it. So please report that on My Gresham. That's the best way to get it to us. Our staff is checking that constantly in the field 6 days a week. So we will be on it as soon as we get it, and we appreciate you helping us get our job done.
Excellent. The consummate professional. She actually captured what I missed. It's letting you know how to communicate with the team here, doing the great work that they do. So again, thank you. Thank your team. If I just started naming names, I'll miss somebody. So I just want to make sure that the team knows that we have great appreciation for all the work that they do.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mayor.
again, Jessica. And as always, we do have folks here behind the camera. We've got Robin Frazen Parker, and then we've got Sarah Sagan. So with that, until we see you again, hey, please stay safe and stay healthy.
Bye.